Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Esther, and today we are going to dive into Psalm 27:4. Now this psalm, this verse, is really at the heartbeat of David's spiritual life. Now we're not just going to pitch a tent in this verse. We're going to zoom out a little bit, look at the overall structure of Psalm 27 so that we can fully understand what it means to desire one thing and to ask the Lord for that daily. So grab your Bible and let's dive into Psalm 27. Okay, now Psalm 27, I've got it turned here. It's traditionally, it's divided into three parts, right? There's verses 1 through 6. Now these are a strong declaration of trust. And then you've got 7 through 12, and that's why I've got them marked differently. This is a heartfelt series of pleas. It's a pleas, as in P-L-E-A-S, a plea of David to the Lord. And then verses 13 and 14 return to this confidence and this hopeful expectation of the Lord. So what I've done here is I have highlighted verses 1 through 6 and 13 and 14 in a color that I wrote here, trust. And then verses 7 through 12, I've colored a different way, and I've written that out as please. Now, according to the New International Commentary on the Old Testament, so I use this for my study in Psalms. It is a great book to have. It is on the more expensive side. However, to me, it is very well worth it. So that's what I'm pulling some of this information from. And so the Nikot, that's what it's called, according to this, trust and plea, they are not opposites. They are actually complementary responses to crisis. So real faith is going to involve this unshakable confidence in God's character, but it's also going to have this honest cry for help. So trust grounds us. Our plea expresses our dependence on God, and together they actually model this balanced, authentic faith. Now, another thing to note about this psalm is that it is really intensely personal. So you'll notice how often David says my. It's the Lord is my shepherd, the Lord is my salvation, the Lord is my stronghold. And because of that personal relationship, David declares here in verses, I've highlighted them in a different color. In verses 1 and 3, you see, whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid? My heart shall not fear, yet I will be confident. This is anchored confidence. It's rooted in David knowing who God is. And because of his faith in the Lord, he can actually face any crisis without being paralyzed by that fear. That doesn't mean fear isn't going to come, but when that fear comes, he has an ongoing, consistent, and solid confidence in the Lord. Another thing to note about this psalm as a whole is that this is a he and me psalm. He is my, it's repeated throughout this psalm. And so I've circled everywhere where there is a my or a me or an I. I've circled them because this is an intimate, it's a raw, and it is a real cry to God. Okay, let's now pitch a tent in verse 4. Now this is where David reveals the core desire that really sustains his confidence. And it is one thing I have asked of the Lord. In a chapter that's filled with this external conflict that we see an emotional intensity, David actually declares what truly matters. He reduces, if you will, life down to a singular priority. It's not survival, it's not revenge, it's not even peace. It's one thing. He asks for one thing, and that is God himself. So this verse says, one thing I have asked of the Lord, that will I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. This is both intentional and really it's revolutionary, because this kind of focus, it doesn't happen by accident. It comes from this heart that has really tasted and seen the goodness of God, and it refuses to settle for anything less. So David's seeking his clarity, it really forces us to ask, can we honestly say that the one thing that we ask for is this? Like, have we made much of the things, the little things, and little of the one thing? Because here's the key. If you look at it, he didn't just ask, right? He says, one thing I have asked of the Lord, but then it says, that will I seek after. He pursued it. This wasn't a passive hope that he would find the Lord. It wasn't this one time. It was, if you see here, it says, all the days of my life. This was daily, it was intentional, and it was whole life desire. Now let me zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. But I have this, and I created this out of just a piece of copy paper. It's the thin paper, but I wanted to be able to have additional room, but I also didn't want it glued down. So I created this so that I could flip it out, and it's labeled The One Thing. And inside you've got your Hebrew vocabulary and then just some things to think about. So let's take a look at this first word, which is bāqash. So David didn't just ask, right? He sought the Lord. He actively, continually, persistently, every word that you can think of. The Hebrew word actually means to search out by any method. It's really to pursue so diligently with this desire, this longing. And the verb here, it actually implies intentional pursuit. It's like you're searching for this treasure, or you're chasing after something, and you're desperate to find it. So for David, this wasn't this one-time prayer. It was a lifelong hunt for the presence of God. David didn't just ask and sit back either, though, because he moves his whole being into motion after God. And it just reminds me of Jeremiah 13, and it says, "You will seek me and you will find me." When? That's the big word. When you seek me with all of your heart. So really what you can think about it in this way, I have asked of the Lord, that will I seek after. This wasn't just David's request. It was more like a lifestyle. It forces us to really ask, how much energy do I put into seeking God daily? So back here on the back side, I've got some questions that I ponder throughout looking throughout these verses. And so these are just questions that I want to ponder when I think about this one. Literally, this could be our life verse. One thing I have asked of the Lord, that will I seek after. Now he's about to tell us what he's seeking after, but ultimately it is the Lord. So the first thing that he mentions is that I may dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So this word yāshab, I think that's how you pronounce it. It means to abide or to remain. This word is more than just visiting the temple in his day and age. It wasn't a weekend getaway. It actually meant to settle in, to abide, to live continuously in God's presence. And it was to make God's presence really his home. So this wasn't like about a physical location, just like it's not for us. It's more of a spiritual orientation. He wants God to be his home. And it reminds me of what Jesus said in John 15. In this chapter, Jesus says over and over, abide in me. And I actually have a video going into the depth of abiding in Christ, but it's that idea. David longs to build his whole life, every single day of whatever life he had, really. He wanted to center that around God's presence, not to fit God into his schedule, but he actually wanted to make God his ultimate dwelling home, to linger in his presence. And so it kind of brings us to think about, do I treat him as my home, or is it more like a hotel that I kind of occasionally just kind of check in? Am I trying to build my life around God's presence, or am I trying to squeeze him in somewhere? Now, the next thing that David says he wants to do is to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord. This is a continuation of dwell, really. Beholding isn't this quick glance. It is a long, loving look. It wasn't okay for David just to know about God. He wanted to see him. He wanted to gaze at him. He wanted to look upon his character and his holiness, his loveliness, his delightful ways, his unfailing love. And this word beauty actually means, let me make sure you can still see this. No, you cannot. Okay. This word beauty, it actually means pleasant, sweet, lovely, delightful. So what David is saying here is that he found God's character deeply beautiful. It was pleasant to him. It was sweet to look upon the Lord, to look upon the Lord's loving kindness, his delightfulness. And this beauty is actually sprinkled throughout this psalm. So we see God as a light, as a salvation, as the stronghold of my life. We see him as a shelter. We see him as a covering. Now, this is not part of what we're studying here. It's the next verse, but I do want to note that shelter, actually, this word is about God's protecting grace. This is the Hebrew word for one of the 7 festivals. It's Sukkoth. It's referring back to the time where they actually wandered through the desert for 40 years, and the Lord was with them. He was sheltering, dwelling with them in the shelter. And here, I actually marked this with the same highlighter color that I used up here, because here it's talking about the house of the Lord, the beauty of the Lord. And down here it says, or before in chapter 26, it says, "Oh Lord, I love the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells." For David and for us, this is about worship. It's about fixing our eyes on God's nature, because that nature really reshapes our view, our perspective, our desire. So then here, a question that I would want to ponder, that I do want to ponder, is that what am I beholding every day? Is it the beauty of the Lord, or is it the brokenness of the world? Now let's take a look at the last request, and that is to inquire in his temple. Now this word inquire is bāqar in Hebrew, and it actually means to meditate, to consider, to inspect. This final phrase that he's asking about is not asking for stuff, right? It's about sitting with God. It's about meditating on his ways. It's about pondering his word, and it's about seeking his understanding. That word literally means intentionally pondering and meditating. It's investigating. It's like someone who lingers with this question, and they're listening carefully to hear the answer. David he didn't want just these emotional highs that I think so many people are seeking for now. He wanted depth. He wanted understanding. He wanted truth. And he spent his life pondering God, not just talking about him, but really deeply thinking about him, meditating on him. Thinking about that, I would ask myself, do I take time? Do I take time to slow down, to reflect on God, on his character, on his goodness? Do I meditate on his word? Because what this verse really shows us, I wrote this down, rhythm of every day. What this verse really shows us is that this is a holistic pursuit. It's all encompassing. So this involved every single part of him. This was the rhythm of his every single day. He engaged God with everything, with his heart, with his mind, with his body. Right here I wrote, this involved every part of him. His mouth, he asked, right? He asked of the Lord. His eyes, they looked for, they gazed upon. His heart, it desired to live and to dwell with God. His mind was thinking and pondering on him. And his ears were like someone who asked a question and inquired of someone and then listened very carefully. Now, David had enemies, right? As we look through this, I've highlighted them with a red. I don't know if you can see that throughout. Let me see. So you can see here that there are red throughout. He had enemies, he had threats, he had pressure, but he chose one thing, and it gave him the confidence to face every crisis that he came across. So how do you and I stir up that desire and that appetite for God's presence? Be sure, I do have a video, so be sure to head over to this video where we talk about 7 things that you can actually start doing today to seek more of God and less of those lesser things. But as we close out, think about this. Think about how Psalm 27 actually begins and it ends with trust. Between his confidence, between his cries, David roots himself in this pursuit of God. He doesn't pray for fewer enemies. He prays for more of God. One thing I ask, this will I seek. So today, I just want to ask you, what is your one thing? Is Jesus your centerpiece? If not, there is no condemnation. There is time though. You can start today. You start by asking for it. You start by seeking it, dwelling in him, beholding him, and meditating on him. And in doing that, you are actually letting that one thing, him, reframe everything else. Well, guys, that's it. If this Bible study stirred something in your heart, would you mind liking the video, maybe subscribing and sharing it with someone who needs this reminder? And leave me a comment below. What is one way, just one way, that you are going to seek the one thing this week? Until next time, set your gaze, fix your eyes on the beauty of the Lord, and seek to dwell in his presence daily. God bless you.